My cousin used AI to frame me for abuse. My parents believed her, took my future, and left me homeless. Until I returned with proof that crushed them. I am a 24-year-old guy, and up until about 2 years ago, I had what most people would probably call a pretty decent life. It wasn't anything crazy special, but comfortable. My parents ran this small business, like a local supply chain thing. I don't want to get too specific. While we weren't rich or anything, they made enough that I never had to stress about basic stuff like some of my friends did. Quick disclaimer before I jump in, this is my main account, but I'm using fake names for obvious reasons. I don't want any more drama than I've already been through. I grew up in this medium-sized city in the Midwest, being vague on purpose, sorry. We lived in one of those typical suburban neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone else. Our house wasn't anything fancy, just a regular 4-bedroom place with a decent backyard where I used to play video games with my friends after school. My parents, let's call them Dan and Amy, were pretty cool, honestly. They worked hard but always made time for family stuff. Dan would help me with my math homework, even after working 12-hour days, and Amy somehow managed to show up to all my school events while running their business. Looking back, I took a lot of that stability for granted. The person I'm going to talk about in this story is my cousin. I'll call her M. She's my age, literally born 3 months apart, and we basically grew up together. After her dad, my Uncle Jake, died in a car accident when we were about 8, her mom, Kate, well, she kind of just checked out. After Jake died, Kate started finding herself or whatever, which basically meant leaving him with us while she traveled around Europe with her yoga friends. Man, thinking about how Em and I used to be makes this whole thing even more messed up. We were literally like siblings. She'd come over after school almost every day, and we'd do our homework together. Play Pokemon on our DS, yeah, I'm dating myself here, LOL, and just hang out. Em was actually really cool back then. She'd cover for me when I snuck out to meet friends, and I'd help her deal with all the drama when Kate would randomly show up and try to play mom for a week before disappearing again. My parents basically became Em's second parents. They'd buy her school supplies, take her on our family vacations, and even got her braces when Kate forgot to send money. Em had her own room at our house and everything. Dan and Amy never complained about the extra expenses. They just treated her like their own kid. I remember this one time in middle school. Em was supposed to be in this big school play. She had a main part in everything, practiced for weeks. Kate promised she'd fly back to see it, but surprise, surprise, she never showed. Em was trying so hard not to cry backstage, but I could tell she was about to lose it. My mom literally dropped everything at work, rushed to the school, and sat in the front row, recording the whole thing on her iPad. That's the kind of stuff that makes this whole situation so crazy to me. We were actually family, Not just see you at Christmas kind of cousins, but real family. Em knew all my embarrassing stories, I knew all her secrets. We had all these inside jokes that drove everyone else nuts, but I wasn't some perfect kid or anything. Yeah, my parents had money for college and stuff, but I worked summer jobs at this local game store just because I wanted to. I played a ton of video games, probably too many if you ask my mom, LOL. I was decent at school but not like straight A's or anything, just a normal guy really. Meanwhile, Em was actually pretty smart back then, like consistently top of our class kind of smart. She had this thing where she could just remember everything she read. Teachers loved her. Everyone thought she was going to end up at some fancy college doing something amazing. God, it's weird writing all this down. I haven't really thought about the good times in forever. I've been trying to forget everything, to be honest. Funny how things change, right? It all started changing around junior year of high school. Em was still living with us most of the time since her mom, Kate, was off doing whatever with husband number 3 or maybe number 4. Honestly, I lost count at this point, LOL. But something was different. The first thing I noticed was how Em started getting really weird about social media. Like really weird. She'd spend hours taking hundreds of selfies just to post one and then obsessively check how many likes she got compared to other girls at school. I remember this one time she literally cried because some random influencer's post got more engagement than hers. I tried telling her it wasn't a big deal, but she just snapped at me, saying I wouldn't understand. Then she started hanging out with this new group of girls. You know the type. The ones who were always bragging about their designer stuff and whose parents drove fancy cars. Em started coming home talking about how basic our house was. The same house she practically grew up in, by the way. And how embarrassing it was that my mom still shopped at Target. The really weird part? Em started making up these crazy stories about her mom. Like telling people Kate was this successful businesswoman traveling the world, making deals, when in reality, she was just hopping between yoga retreats and burning through what was left of Uncle Jake's life insurance money. My parents never corrected her because they didn't want to embarrass her, but it was pretty cringe watching her lie to everyone. The money thing got really intense. Em would borrow my mom's clothes and accessories and never return them. She started asking for expensive stuff for her birthday and Christmas, then throw these massive tantrums if she didn't get exactly what she wanted. One time, she literally stopped talking to my parents for a week because they got her the regular iPhone instead of the Pro Max version. Like, who does that? But the thing that really started freaking me out was how she got into this weird AI art stuff. At first, it seemed pretty innocent. She was using these apps to edit her photos, make them look more aesthetic or whatever. But then she started getting obsessed with these deepfake videos and AI image generators. She'd spend hours in her room messing with them. I remember walking past her room one night and hearing her laugh about something. She was on Discord with those new friends of hers, joking about how they could literally ruin someone's life with this technology. I didn't think much of it at the time. God, I wish I had. I just thought it was typical edgy teen stuff. The really messed up part is how she started using people's photos without asking. She'd take pictures from our family events or parties and run them through these AI things to make weird edits. Some of them were pretty disturbing, to be honest. My mom found some on her laptop once and tried to talk to her about it, but Em just said she was practicing her art and that we didn't understand digital culture. Yikes. Around this time, she also started this weird thing where she'd always position herself in family photos so she looked like the main character. She'd throw a fit if she wasn't in the center, then post these super edited versions where everyone else was kind of blurred out or cropped weird. But she looked perfect. My dad tried to joke about it once, asking if the rest of us were just NPCs in her game. She didn't talk to him for 3 days after that. The really creepy thing? She started taking pictures of me when I wasn't looking. I'd be doing homework or playing games, and I'd catch her sneaking photos. When I asked her about it, she'd always have some excuse ready. Oh, I'm making a family photo album, or it's for a school project. But she never showed me these projects, and no album ever appeared. I tried talking to my parents about how weird she was getting, but they just chalked it up to teenage girl stuff and said she was probably just struggling because of her mom being absent. They kept making excuses for her because they felt bad about her dad dying and her mom being useless. Then everything really went to hell when senior year rolled in. Everyone was talking about college plans, and I'm not going to lie, I was pretty excited. My parents had been saving up for my college fund since I was born, not like a massive trust fund or anything, but enough that I could go to a decent school without drowning in debt. They were always super transparent about it, showing me the account statements and everything so I'd understand how saving worked. Here's where I messed up. One night, Em and I were hanging out in our basement gaming room, playing Smash Bros like we used to when we were kids. She seemed more chill than she had in months, so when she asked about my college plans, I didn't think twice about telling her. I told her how my parents had saved around $80,000 for college. Typing that number out now makes me cringe so hard knowing what happened to it. Em got really quiet, which should have been my first warning sign. Then she started asking all these specific questions about the account. Where was it held? Was it in my name? When would I get access to it? Stuff like that. I remember exactly what she said next because it was so weird. Must be nice having parents who actually plan for your future, instead of blowing all your dad's life insurance money on yoga retreats in Bali. I tried to sympathize, told her maybe she could apply for scholarships or financial aid, even offered to help her look for part-time jobs so she could start saving. She just gave me this look. I don't know how to describe it, like she was looking through me instead of at me. Then she started ranting about how unfair everything was, how her mom had promised to help with college but spent all the money on her new husband's business venture. Spoiler, they were all scams. How my parents treated her like family but never thought to save any college money for her. How I didn't deserve the fund because I wasn't even that smart and just got good grades because teachers felt sorry for me, helping my poor orphan cousin. Her words, not mine. I got pretty pissed at that point, told her she was being ungrateful considering my parents had basically raised her for free. Big mistake. Huge mistake. She stormed out of the basement, and I figured she just needed to cool off. I went back to gaming and texted my girlfriend Sarah about hanging out later. Sarah was supposed to be this big part of my future. We'd been dating since sophomore year and were planning to go to the same college. The next morning, Em wasn't at breakfast, which was weird because she always had breakfast with us. Mom said she'd left early to work on a school project. Looking back, she was probably already setting her plan in motion. That whole day at school felt off. People were giving me weird looks, whispering when I walked by. Sarah wasn't answering my texts. I figured maybe there was some dumb rumor going around. You know how high school is. But this was way worse than any normal high school drama. I got home that day, totally clueless about what was waiting for me. Quick note, writing this part is pretty rough. I had to take a few breaks. Even 2 years later, this still hits hard. When I walked in, everyone was in our living room, and I mean everyone. My parents, Em, and her mom, Kate, who I hadn't seen in like 8 months, by the way. Even Sarah's parents were there. Em was crying on the couch with Kate holding her, which was rich considering Kate hadn't given a damn about her for years. The moment I walked in, the room went dead silent. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and you just know everyone was just talking about you? Yeah, multiply that by like 1,000. I remember asking, "What's going on?" like some idiot in a horror movie. Em started crying harder. Looking back now, her acting skills were pretty impressive, not gonna lie. My mom wouldn't even look at me. My dad just sat there with his head in his hands. Then Kate pulled out her iPad. She had this whole presentation ready, I kid you not. She started showing everyone these Discord servers I'd supposedly been part of, where people were trading AI-generated images. She had screenshots of conversations that looked like they were from my accounts, talking about using Em's photos. She even had fake bank statements showing transfers from crypto wallets that were supposedly mine. The worst part? This stuff looked real, like scary real. Em had spent months learning how to use these AI tools, and she knew exactly how to make everything look legitimate. She even added little details, like inside jokes we used to have, making the fake conversations sound exactly like how I actually type. "What did you do?" Dad asked. I tried to explain that none of it was real, that I didn't even know how to use most of this tech stuff, but Em had thought of everything. She said that was my cover, that I pretended to be bad with technology so no one would suspect me. She even used my gaming hobby against me, saying I learned all this stuff through dark web gaming forums or whatever. Sarah was there too. She hadn't answered my text all day because she'd been with Em, who was finally opening up about her trauma. Sarah couldn't even look at me, just kept holding Em's hand and glaring at me like I was some kind of monster. What really stung wasn't just that Sarah believed Em, it was how eager she was to throw me away. There was no hesitation, no doubt. It was immediate. She didn't ask for proof, didn't question the absurdity of the situation, didn't even stop to consider that maybe, just maybe, the guy she'd been with for years wasn't some secret monster. She acted like she wanted to believe the worst about me, like it was easier for her to rewrite our history than to face the possibility that she was being manipulated. And the worst part? She didn't just believe it, she helped him. She amplified the lies, made sure our friends heard them, turned every mutual connection against me. I wasn't just guilty in her eyes, I was someone she had to erase completely. And you know what's really messed up? Em used our whole history against me. All those years we spent growing up together, all the time we spent in each other's rooms, all the family vacations. She twisted everything into something sinister, made it sound like I'd been planning this for years. I kept trying to defend myself, but everything I said just made it worse. When I mentioned how Em was the one always taking secret photos of me, she started crying harder and said I was trying to Darvo her. I had to Google that later. Apparently it means deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. My dad finally looked at me, his face cold. "How long has this been going on? I lost it. Are you serious? You're actually believing this? You're all crazy for believing this nonsense. Em is lying. She's just jealous about college. She wants my college fund." Bad move. Really bad move. Em let out this exaggerated sigh, shaking her head like she pitied me. I knew he'd say that. That's exactly why I told you guys he'd bring up college to distract from what he did. Kate exploded. "Oh, we're way past that. You think this is just some sibling drama? You do realize they can press charges for this, right?" I wasn't even listening anymore. My mom was just sitting there, silent, tears rolling down her face. She wouldn't even look at me. I turned to her, desperate. "Mom, you know me. Please, you know me." Before she could react, Em gasped, her whole body shaking. No, don't let him near me." She stumbled back, clutching her chest like she couldn't breathe, then just collapsed, wheezing, full-on hyperventilating on the floor. It was honestly an Oscar-worthy performance. That was it for my dad. He grabbed me by the shoulders and shoved me toward the door, voice like thunder. "Get out." I froze. "Dad, you are not my son," he spat. "I'll have your stuff packed and sent somewhere, but you're not welcome in this house anymore." And just like that, it was over. I tried one last time to tell them Em was lying. Want to know what my mom finally said to me? "I wish I'd never had you." I walked out of that house with just my backpack, phone, and wallet. I didn't even have a jacket. It was March in the Midwest. Sarah blocked my number that night, and I spent that night in my car in a Walmart parking lot. That first night in my car was probably the longest night of my life. It was like 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I only had my thin hoodie. I kept trying to text people, but everyone had blocked me. Em had done her work well. She'd even reached out to my online gaming friends. My Discord was blowing up with people calling me a creep before I just logged off everything. The few people who hadn't blocked me yet were sending screenshots of Em's posts about me. She was playing the victim perfectly, posting about how she was finally free to speak her truth and how she hoped other victims of AI abuse would feel empowered to come forward. She even started some hashtag about AI safety that was getting traction in our school. The next morning, I tried going to my job at GameStop. Yeah, I still had that part-time job from earlier. My manager took one look at me and said they'd heard what happened and that they couldn't have someone like me working with young customers. I got fired on the spot. I was down to like $167 in my checking account. My savings were all in that college fund that I didn't have access to yet.
Credit card?
Yeah, my parents had already called and reported it lost, so it was canceled. They really thought of everything. I spent the next few days between my car, the public library for warmth and Wi-Fi, and this 24-hour McDonald's where this one night shift worker would let me hang out if I bought a coffee every few hours. Shout out to Marcus. If you're reading this, bro, you probably saved my life. Those nights, I was getting desperate enough to consider some really dark thoughts when my phone rang. It was my Aunt Paula, my mom's sister, who lived like 4 hours away in this tiny town in the middle of nowhere. She was the only person who bothered to ask for my side of the story. I sat in that McDonald's parking lot and told her everything, the whole thing about M's jealousy, the AI photos, how she set me up. And you know what? She actually listened, like really listened, not just waiting for me to finish so she could tell me how disappointed she was. When I finished talking, she was quiet for a minute, then she said something I'll never forget. I believe you. I lost it. Started crying right there in the parking lot. I hadn't cried through this whole thing until then, but those 3 words just broke me. Paula told me to stay put, that she was coming to get me. She said she had to work a shift at the hospital first. She's a nurse, but she'd drive down right after. She asked if I could hang on for 12 more hours, longest 12 hours of my life. I was scared Em would somehow find out and stop her from coming. I kept having these paranoid thoughts that everyone was watching me. The McDonald's Wi-Fi kept showing these ads about AI technology, which really messed with my head. Finally, at like 2 in the morning, Paula's old Subaru pulled into the parking lot. She took one look at me, hadn't showered in days, wearing the same clothes, probably looked like absolute garbage, and just hugged me. Didn't ask questions, didn't judge, just hugged me. She had brought me a warm jacket, some food, and a pillow for the drive back. We stopped at an ATM where she took out some cash for me. I found out later she had to dip into her own savings for that. The whole drive back, she just let me sleep while she played old 90s music really quietly. Remember how I said Em was good at social media? By the time we got to Paula's house, she had somehow found out I was fleeing town and posted this whole thing about how it proved my guilt. She even got Sarah to post about how she was glad the truth came out before it was too late. Paula just took my phone and locked it in a drawer, said I needed to focus on surviving right now, that social media could wait. She set me up in her spare room, nothing fancy, just a twin bed and a desk, but it felt like a palace after sleeping in my car. You know what the really messed up part is? Em had been to Paula's house before, on family trips. She knew exactly where I was going. But I guess her revenge fantasy didn't include the boring part where her victim had to actually survive afterward. Those first few months at Paula's were rough, like really rough. I basically became a hermit, spent most days just staring at the ceiling in that spare room trying to figure out how my life had imploded so fast. Paula would bring me food, but I barely ate. I lost like 20 pounds in the first month alone. The worst part was the nightmares. Keep in mind, I'd grown up with social media, right? Like everyone my age, I was always online. But now, every time I saw a phone camera, I'd have a panic attack. I kept thinking everyone was recording me, that Em was somehow watching. Paula had to put a piece of tape over her laptop camera because I was convinced Em could hack into it somehow. Paula was literally an angel through all this. She worked night shifts at the hospital but still made sure to check on me during the day. She started bringing home these random books from the library. Looking back, I think she was trying to show me I could still have a future. About 2 months in, Paula sat me down for a real talk. She said I could stay with her as long as I needed, but I had to start doing something with my life. I couldn't just hide in her spare room forever. She was right, but man, the idea of facing the world again was terrifying. The next day, she brought home this flyer for the local community college. They had night classes in IT and computer science. Ironic, right? The same tech that Em used to destroy my life could maybe help me rebuild it. Paula offered to help with the tuition. I found out later she took out a small loan for this. I still feel guilty about that. Here's where it gets kind of boring, but like good boring. I started taking these basic IT classes. Turned out I was actually decent at it. The teachers didn't know my backstory, didn't look at me like I was some kind of monster. It was nice just being treated like a normal person again. I got a job at this local computer repair shop too. The owner, Mike, was this old dude who didn't give a damn about social media or drama. He just cared if you could fix computers or not. The pay wasn't great, but it was something. Plus, I was learning stuff I could actually use. I started making a routine for myself. Work at the shop during the day, classes at night. Paula would leave dinner in the microwave for me when she had night shifts. Sometimes we'd catch each other for breakfast, me just getting home from late classes, her just getting up for work. We'd share coffee, and she'd do her crossword while I studied. The panic attacks got less frequent. I started being able to go to the grocery store without thinking everyone was staring at me. I even made a few acquaintances at school, not friends exactly, more like people I could do group projects with without freaking out. I found out later that Em was still posting about me sometimes. She'd made this whole narrative about how I'd escaped justice and was probably continuing my crimes somewhere else. But you know what? Her posts were getting less attention. People were moving on to new drama. I knew because for the first time in months, I let myself look. Not directly, hell no, I wasn't about to. Give her the satisfaction, but through an old classmate's public Twitter thread where people were dragging her for being a clout chaser. Someone had linked one of her dramatic Survivor posts, and the replies were brutal. Wait, wasn't this debunked already? One person commented. Another said, girl, if you need money, just say that. And then I saw the one that really made my blood run cold. Some random account asked, didn't her family give her like a ton of money for college? What happened to that? I clicked, biggest mistake. Buried in the replies was a screenshot of Em's old post from right after everything went down, some long, rambling caption about how she was finally getting the support she deserved, alongside a picture of her acceptance letter to some fancy out-of-state university. Someone else chimed in, wasn't her cousin supposed to go to college too? What happened to his fund? I sat there, staring at the words, my stomach dropping because I already knew what happened. I just never wanted to admit it to myself. The day I got kicked out, my dad had said, you are not my son, and I guess he meant it because instead of saving my college fund for me, hell, even just leaving it sitting in the account, they gave it to her, all $80,000 of it. She took my entire future and set it on fire. And for what? Clout? Designer handbags? A fake influencer career? I don't know how long I sat there, but Paula must have seen my face because she gently took my phone from my hands. You don't need to do this to yourself, she said. But it was too late, the damage was already done. Paula helped me set up a new email, new phone number, new everything, not to hide, just to start fresh. The only connection to my old life was this one burner email account I checked sometimes, just in case anyone from my past ever wanted to hear my side of the story. No one ever did. The weird thing is I started getting kind of okay, not happy exactly, but stable. I started learning about how AI actually works in my classes, learned about digital forensics, how to spot fake images, all that stuff. Too late to help my case, but it still felt good to understand it. Around the 1-year mark, I had this moment. I was sitting with Paula, watching some stupid cooking show, both of us exhausted from work and school, eating takeout pizza, and I realized this was my life now. Small, quiet, boring, but mine. No drama, no social media fame, just existing. But then my parents started trying to contact me. It started with emails, like a lot of emails, from my parents. Subject lines like, please read this, and we need to talk, and we made a terrible mistake. I ignored them all. Paula saw them too. We share Netflix, and sometimes I forget to log out of my email on her tablet. Then they started calling Paula, like constantly. She didn't tell me at first, didn't want to mess with my head when I was finally doing okay. But one night, after her shift, she sat me down with this serious look on her face. Turns out Em had messed up, like really messed up. Remember that college fund my parents gave her? Yeah, she blew through it in less than a year. But that's not even the crazy part. Em had dropped out of college after one semester. Told my parents she was taking classes online while she was actually using their money to try becoming an influencer. Bought followers, paid for shoutouts, the whole wannabe famous package, but that still wasn't enough for her. She started pulling the same stunt she did with me, but this time, she targeted my dad. She created this whole fake story about how he'd been inappropriate with her, complete with AI-generated evidence and everything. She said he'd been using the college money to buy her silence. But the really messed up part? She was sloppy this time, got too confident, I guess. She started showing the AI-generated stuff to people who actually knew about that technology. Someone pointed out the telltale signs of AI manipulation, you know, those little glitches that programs leave behind. But Em didn't stop there. When my dad cut off her money, she went nuclear, started posting all this stuff online about him, trying to get him canceled or whatever. She even tried to get my mom involved, saying she knew about everything. Here's where karma finally showed up. Em didn't realize that in the 2 years since she pulled this with me, AI detection technology had gotten way better. Some IT guy my dad hired for his business took one look at her evidence and spotted all the signs of AI manipulation. The whole house of cards started falling apart. People started questioning her story. Then they started looking back at what she'd done to me. Someone even found old cached versions of her social media posts where she'd messed up and posted the original, unedited versions of some photos. My parents were devastated, not just because of what M was doing to them, but because they finally realized what they'd done to me. They found out I was living with Paula. M had been telling everyone I'd fled the country and started trying to contact me. Paula showed me all their messages. They were a mess. My mom was having panic attacks, Dad couldn't sleep. They wanted to make things right, said they'd do anything to fix what they'd done. Well, honestly, part of me was happy they were suffering. How messed up is that? My own parents, and I was glad they were getting a taste of what I went through. But mostly, I just felt nothing. Like, reading their desperate messages didn't even make me angry anymore. They were basically strangers to me now. Paula thought I should talk to them, said it might help me move on. But I didn't want to move on. I'd built this new life for myself without them, without all that drama. Why should I let them mess that up? Then M showed up at my parents' house, crying, saying she needed help. She said she was sorry, that she'd gotten carried away, that she'd make it right. My parents actually started to believe her again. Can you believe that? That's when I decided to go back. Not for them, not for closure or whatever people talk about. I went back because I was done letting M destroy people's lives with her lies. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. Paula thought I was crazy, but she helped me plan everything. I'd learned enough about technology by then to know what I was doing. The first thing I did was buy one of those tiny hidden cameras, just a basic one that could record audio and video. Paula helped me test it to make sure it wasn't obvious. I also set up my phone to record backup audio, just in case. I found out through Paula that M was staying at my parents' house again, playing the whole repentant cousin act. She was still posting on social media about her journey of healing or whatever, but now she was mixing in vague posts about my dad being inappropriate. Classic EM, keeping all her options open. I showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. I chose that time because I knew my parents would be at work. I didn't want them involved yet. M opened the door, and man, it was weird seeing her in person after everything. She'd changed her hair, was wearing these expensive clothes, probably bought with my college fund. But that manipulative look in her eyes was exactly the same. She tried to act shocked, started doing her whole trembling victim act, but I just stood there, calm as hell. 2 years of therapy coming in clutch, I guess. I said I wanted to talk, that's it. No accusations, no yelling, just talk. She tried to say she was going to call the police, but I think something about how calm I was freaked her out. She let me in. We sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where we used to do homework together as kids, and I just let her talk, let her dig her own grave. I asked her simple questions and watched her story fall apart. The best part? She actually admitted everything, not because she felt guilty, but because she was proud of it. She straight up told me she did it because she could, because it was too easy. She said she learned all about AI tools from some Discord servers, spent months planning everything. Then she started bragging about how she was going to do the same thing to my dad, how no one could prove anything. She literally said, "It's my word against his, and everyone always believes the victim." That's when I took out my phone and played back the last 30 seconds of our conversation. You guys, I wish I had a picture of her face in that moment. She went from smug to terrified in like 0.2 seconds. She tried to grab my phone, but I'd already backed everything up to the cloud. Learned that trick in my IT classes. She started crying, but not her usual fake tears, real, ugly crying. She begged me not to show anyone the recording. Offered to tell everyone she made everything up about me. Even offered to split what was left of the college fund, of which there was nothing left. I didn't say anything, just texted my parents to come home. They showed up 20 minutes later and found us sitting there. Me calm, M having a complete meltdown. I played the whole recording for them, everything. M admitting she made up the original accusations. Her bragging about the AI photos, her plans to do the same to my dad, all of it. My mom threw up, like literally ran to the bathroom and threw up. My dad just sat there, looking like his whole world was collapsing, which I guess it was. M tried one last time to manipulate the situation, started saying she only did it because she was traumatized by her dad's death and her mom abandoning her, that she needed help, not punishment. She pulled the whole "we're family" card. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "We're not family, we never were." Then I sent the recording to everyone, her mom, my extended family, her friends, everyone who'd blocked me 2 years ago. I also sent it to the college she'd dropped out of, explaining how she'd scammed my parents out of the tuition money. The aftermath was pretty much what you'd expect. M's mom finally showed up, but only to tell her she was cutting her off. My parents tried to press charges, but there wasn't much legal ground since M had technically never blackmailed them for money. She just manipulated them into giving it. My parents begged for forgiveness, like literally begging, but you know what? I couldn't give it to them. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I just couldn't. I told them I didn't hate them anymore, but I didn't want them in my life either. Last I heard, M's living with some random roommates, working retail. She tried to restart her social media, but nobody wants anything to do with her. Turns out, people don't like finding out they were manipulated. I went back to Paula's house, back to my quiet life, my IT classes, my small circle of new friends who don't know or care about my past. Sometimes I still have nightmares about cameras and AI, but they're getting less frequent. Paula says I should be proud of how I handled everything, says I got justice without becoming like M. I don't know about that. Some days I'm not sure if exposing her made me better or worse than her. But you know what? I'm free, really, properly free. M can't hurt me anymore, can't hurt anyone else either, and that's enough.